The tools that we use as architects always seem to follow the same pattern. First they're made. At this stage, they are quite limited, they're slow, they're a little bit clunky, and there seems to be a lot of people who are saying, this will not go anywhere, we should stick to the tools that we already have. And then they get improved. And improved. But this comes at a cost. The tools, they become complicated, they become complex, and we start hiring external professionals, experts of these complex tools that know those tools very well. And we ourselves as designers, we focus on a very specific, a very narrow range of tools ourselves, simply because we don't have the time to cover the whole range. So the whole process becomes quite dispersed and quite convoluted. But then it gets more and more accessible. It gets improved towards accessibility, and this is stage 3. The never-ending lists of settings are distilled, they are tucked away, and only the settings that really matter, the settings that make an impact towards the design or the visual, are presented to the end user, right? So those who were experts in the previous stage, in the complex tool stage, tend to say that in doing so we lose control over the tool, right? So there is a lack of control, and that is a bad thing. And being a man who also loves complex tools, and I tend to agree, I should agree, I think. But I also acknowledge the importance of workflow that does not inflict pain on the designer through the sheer level of knowledge that is required, the software knowledge that is required from the designer, right? A painless workflow leaves more time for exploration. It leaves more time to create a better design. So that's what I believe D5 people, or people behind the D5 render engine, are doing. They're at the frontier of this step 3 or phase 3 of making the architectural visualization, in this case tools, more accessible to the end user, right? And with their 2.5 update, that definitely seems to be the case. The first thing to note, that I would like to note about the new update, is that there seems to be an ecosystem emerging. Together with the 2.5 update, a new AI tool is about to be released. Currently, I believe it's still in the testing, closed beta testing phase, but it's picture-to-picture. We'll talk about that in just a second. And a team collaboration environment type of a suite is also either about to be released or already has been released. And I'll cover all of them as well as the software as well in the remainder of this video. Okay, so let's start with the AI bit, the AI portion. First of all, the AI is not integrated into the software itself at the time of recording this video. It's on a website, it's accessible through the website, right, separately. And it has two functionalities. One functionality is pictures to pictures or image to image based. Similar to what you would get with Vera's plugin for Rhino or Revit, or Arco AI plugin for Rhino or Revit, where you basically give the software or the AI, you give it a starting image, you give it a description of what you want the end image to look like, and it changes the starting image to look according to your description, right? So it's very good to use that kind of a tool to go through numerous iterations of styles and vibes that you're aiming towards with your renders, and then kind of using that as a very kind of tailored for you Pinterest board for the next stages of actually making the renders, right? And actually creating the materials. And the second one is text to image, right? So you don't even give it a starting picture or starting information, you just give it a text prompt and it generates a set of images for you, and then you filter through those and you get, you know, like the inspiration images, let's say, right? For your future renders. So the AI integration in this case, it's for the absolute start of your project, and I think that's great. I think that's how it should be used at the current state. So now on to the collaborative environment or collaboration environment. It's called D5 Teams or Render Teams. That seems to be a quite interesting and very high potential side project from the main, D5 renderer, where a bunch of people from your company or your organization can jump into the single model and work on it all simultaneously, right? So one person does the interior, the other person does the exterior. Notes can be sent between or can be put on the model for, yo, Sarah, can you correct, this chair and so on. And also different teams can have their asset libraries tailored for assets that organization uses, right? So full-on asset libraries stored in the servers. It's going to be, I believe, a subscription-based model, so it's probably going to be a little bit more of on an expensive side, with the main focus of companies using that, not individuals. So I think that's a smart way to position this kind of a product. I'm very curious about it, and I believe this will require a separate video in the near future. Okay, so one of the main highlights of additions to the D5 renderer is the caustics effect that you get from refractive or reflective materials. And I have this example here that I'm going to show you. It's basically a rectangle, just an asset, a plane asset from, I believe it's under assets, and we have ourselves model, other basic model, and a plane from this list that will eventually load in. There we go, right? So that plane with a blue silicone material attached. So I'm going to switch the material in just a second. And also I brushed on some grass on top of it just to see how that works. That doesn't matter. So if I take this plane and then I move it down, and I have already written myself down the 889, I believe, the location or the altitude, I guess. And then we zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit slow. Sorry about that. You can see that it looks kind of watery. Not really, but kinda. And also, of course, I can change the display from smooth to precise to make it a little bit nicer still. This is not water material, so it looks funky. But for us to change it to water, all we need to do is just go to assets. Let's go to our material, and I have under recent, I already have used the water material, so I'm just gonna use this calm water dark green. There we go. Plop that in there. Now it looks a little bit more, watery, I guess. And with this then I can also change the stretch, because you can see the waves are way too big, right? So in terms of the stretch, I think like 10 times more or 100 times more. So 50 by 50. Yeah, that seems like water. So let me just zoom in to like a bit more interesting portion here. And you can see that there are no caustics, even though I have a reflective material and everything should work and there's like light that's hitting the water surface. It's not creating any ripples right here on the bottom of the building. And to actually get it to work, you need to enable caustics both for the material. So you can see now I have selected the material here of the water, and here we have the caustics option. So I enable that, like so. And also for the lights that should produce the caustic effect. So what I have here are two, I'm gonna try to select them. That sucks. I can't. 1 second. There we go. So I have 2 point lights here. One right here and the other one right here. And I will just enable caustics for both of them, like so. You can already see from this light there's some rippling going on here. And then for this one, caustics, tick mark that. You can change the intensity if you want to, some ripply effect here. And then if I just click on test water, one of my scenes that I already have pre-made, you can see a pretty nice ripply effect here at the bottom of my building, which is super nice. That's as easy as it gets. Those of you who are familiar with caustics and other render engines know how painful adding caustics might be, and in this case we're seeing it almost almost in real time, which is amazing. Another addition that I really enjoy in D5 2.5 is the addition of cameras. So before we were always working with a single viewport and trying to position things in a single viewport, but not anymore, right? So here I have created a camera, and by the way, to create a camera, to be able to create a separate camera in your scene, you do need to enable a widget. So you go to preferences here and you choose advanced camera tools, the beta version. You enable that. And this gives you a possibility to add a camera from any view as an object. So I have already added one here, like so. And as I select it, you can see its aperture and so on, and also it shows up here in the bottom of the screen. And I can pin the camera, like so. So even when I don't have it selected, it's still showing me what the camera sees, right? And then I can do stuff like taking, a bush or something and dragging it around, trying to position it, and you can see that it gets updated here in the camera itself, which is very neat. And I dragged it too far. There we go. So stuff like that is super helpful. There are other things about the camera setup that I really enjoy. Let me show them to you. One thing is, if I select the camera again, is you can frame your views now not just for the horizontal view space, because usually, let's be honest, the viewport, you're using like 100% of the viewport, and it's pretty hard to understand how an image is going to be framed, how the composition is going to look like when you will be kind of exporting it for Instagram, let's say for a vertical image. And in this case, you can do that quite easily. Here with camera selected, I can just choose aspect ratio from custom. I can change to 9 by 16. And now it shows me how the aspect ratio would, how the view would look with a vertical aspect ratio. So that's very nice. Also I guess we can jump to the next improvement, I guess. And that is the video control. So under video, now you are able to create clips, not just from the scenes as you were previously, but also you can use cameras and you can add in cameras. So for instance, this clip right here that I have, sorry, no, that's not the clip, this one right here. And let's switch from display to precise. This was made with the two cameras that I had already set up in the scene. So that's very nice. This is not going to be a tutorial, it's more of an overview that, so I'm not going to be showing you how to do that properly. But yeah, and I will show you the video of it right now. So you can see also that in the video or in these still shots is that the caustic effect, the quality of it increases drastically when it's rendered out. So this preview is still pretty rough, while in the video the caustic effect was quite clean and quite nice. So that's really impressive. Okay, so let's talk about the third thing inside of the render engine that I really enjoy, and that enjoying the addition of, and that is the section tool. Again, you can access the section tool through the preferences, and here there should be limited free section tools. Enable that. I assume limited free means that eventually this is going to be a part of the Pro package for which you do need to pay, so it's not going to be free, which I really hope that is not going to be the case, because while the advanced camera tools, yeah, sure, they I believe should be a part of the Pro package, the section tools, that is quite important thing for architecture students to have and to use. So I wish that was that stayed free. Currently it is free and you can check it out. So let's do that. Enable that. And let's just do a few optimizations here so that our computer does not scream too much. Alright, okay, so I removed a lot of the foliage here and only left a few, simply because while recording with a laptop, it would be too much for this little machine to handle, you know, cutting through the forest. So let's add a section. So here, once you've enabled through the preferences the section widget, you can add sections just by simply clicking here and choosing either to use a plane or a cube. For this particular example, just an overview, I'll show you the plane option. So add a plane. It asks you, you know, what's the orientation. It always orients itself to the surface on which you are holding the mouse on top of. So I'm just going to put it there, like so, and I will just simply move it in. And ta-da! You have yourselves a little section, right? It's not the best in this case, simply because it's not filled, right? So I'm just going to tick mark the fill, click the generate button, and now my section is filled in. You can create really interesting and really beautiful sections now with this tool, simply by playing around with the lights, the sun, and switching from perspective views to axonometric views, and so on. So this is such a strong tool, and just notice how freaking fast it is. Keep in mind that this is being rendered on a laptop, right? Oh, and if you like this 3D model, the Patreon supporters will get access to the model. So link in the video description below. You become a Patreon, you support the channel. This channel supports you with a beautiful model that was not made by me, but rather by talented people at very good architecture company. Also link in the video description below. Yeah. So the section tool, I believe, for me is my favorite addition to all of the tools that D5 2.5 version offers, followed closely by caustics and by the camera. There's of course a whole list of functions that you get with the new update. Most of them are ease of use improvements or improvements of performance. So just to list through a few that I remember and that I feel are important. The foliage, the grass and the leaves and the pine needles, all of it behaves much more naturally with the light. So the global illumination, the way the light bounces around the leaves, is much more natural. So you're not going to get that kind of synthetic look anymore. And I think that is evident from just the still images that I have rendered. That looks more natural. Then they are using DLSS3, which I believe, so it's super sampling. So it's a way of how to show less pixels on the viewport while still retaining a lot of quality in the overall image. So the performance is improved because the engine needs to render out less pixels, but you still get the nice look. It does use AI tools for this, so there might be some artifacting going on, but that's a pretty good addition. The subsurface scattering materials are improved. I really believe that subsurface scattering is the most overlooked material type that there is, so hopefully this will bring it more to the public to use. And the last one, here in the top you can see my GPU usage, my VRAM, my RAM, and my FPS counter, and also how many faces are currently being drawn. That's also interesting. So the statistics, the usage statistics are right in front of your face all the time, and I believe that is a very, very good thing to have, especially when you're dealing with large files, to see when are you actually hitting that video RAM, video memory limit, when are you hitting that GPU performance limit, when is your RAM full, and what does your FPS look like at the current level. So all of these improvements all bundled together make it so that I can really recommend you trying out the 2.5 version and just seeing by yourselves. It's still, D5 is still a free tool with only a few add-ons and a few widgets that are that require the pro version. So as long as D5 stays free with paid for benefits, I will always be recommending it because they're doing a great job of improving their product with every version. Okay, I guess that's it about this version, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.